I've made a video on the Zen browser before, but that was when it was in the early alpha state. But then the Zen browser is now in beta, and there has been so many great improvements. We've got some new features that just makes Zen better and more friendly to use. It's available on all platforms again, and not just Mac, but Windows and Linux, with some great custom supports there too. I do have some Arc browser issues that I want to talk about first, which is my MacBook battery draining like crazy. And it got me thinking maybe it was the battery health getting worse, but nope, it was from the Arc browser. That's pulling so much power and using so much RAM. If you've been using Arc and been facing random issues on there, I promise that you're not the only one. Even though Arc was this amazing new gen browser that came out first and put out the idea of new browsers for everyone to see, there will always be another browser that will try to follow up on that and will try to make it better. Zen is an open source, so most of the support, feedback, and changes are from the community that wants Zen to become better. Especially when it works so well on multiple platforms and OS, that increases the community range by even more. Before this, we were not able to move the sidebar to the right side of the screen. The option was there, but it was not doable. But now we can. You can call me weird, but this is what I prefer to have. I think it's really great to have it on the right side instead of the left. And then when it comes to pin tabs or essential tabs, like what you see here right now on the right hand side is the pin tabs. And before this, you were not able to drag the tabs from the bottom here into the pin tab. I believe the only way to pin a tab is to right click and then pin the tab. But now you can actually just drag these tabs, rearrange them, and also move them into the pin tabs or move them out. So that's working and that's really great to see. For pin tabs, you can actually make it behave differently for different workspaces. So if you go to the settings and go to the tab management, you should see the option for allow workspaces have their own pin tabs. For example, in this workspace, I have these type of pin tabs, right? In another workspace, I have different types of pin tabs. This allows you to have different pin tabs for different workspaces. If you do want to have tabs that remains persistent through all the workspaces, there is something called the essential tabs. So what, for example, if I just change this to the essential tabs, this thing will stay persistent through all workspace. Now, when we talk about layouts, if we go to the look and feel, we'll see that we have many types of layout now. So we have an option, for example, if we choose the single toolbar, the URL bar comes down here instead. And what I prefer to use is multiple toolbars, meaning I have the search URL bar on top and just the tab bar on the side. Or you could do the collapse toolbar, and this will always be your format. If you come down to the theme settings, you have even more options now. This is going to set the view options for when you're in compact mode. To go into compact mode, in my keyboard shortcut, I have it set to Command S. This takes me into the compact mode. So if we go back to look and feel, currently I have the hide tab bar on. So going into compact mode with Command S hides the tab bar. For example, if we just hide the top bar, then the top bar just disappears. If you're someone who likes to hide both, you can do that as well. And it doesn't really matter if you want to hide both because you can still hover and have those things show up as usual. But I prefer to just have it as the hide tab bar. Essentially, if you have hide both and you kind of want to toggle instead of hovering, you can also do the option command T on float and also option command S to show the sidebar on float as well. This you can also set in the keyboard shortcuts as the floating toolbar and floating sidebar. For me, hide tab bar just makes the most sense. If you also try and do option click or alt click, this opens up the Zen glance similar to the Arc, right? It just opens up in this nice preview window and then you can close it with command W or just close this here. Or if you expand it, it just opens up in a new tab. But I think it's kind of buggy on the Mac right now. So if we just open it opens up in a new tab, but it's sort of just the layout is kind of wrong right now. but I think they can actually just fix that. I mean, of course, this is still in beta, but yeah, it should actually be fixed later on. The one thing that I really liked when I was using Arc was I was able to actually set key bindings for the tabs that I'm going to be switching to most. So for example, if I'm going to have 3 tabs that I switch to most of the time, then what I'll do is I'll just add them to the pin tabs, right? And no matter what, I can actually switch between them with just doing Control Y will go to the first one, Control I goes to the second one, Control N goes to the third one. So I can just switch between these tabs however I like with a specific keybind. So that's something that I really use a lot. I'm also able to do this in the Zen browser. So if I go to Zen browser, and you can see that the first tab is this one, the second tab is this, and third is the settings. So if I'm actually going to switch between tabs, I can also do Control Y, right, I, and N to switch between these tabs. So in the keyboard shortcuts, Control Y, I, N, and S. You can see that they allow you to switch between workspaces with the keybind as well. So that's just how I would switch between workspaces. Another thing I liked about Arc was also being able to change the theme colors, as you can see here. Arc allows you to set these theme colors according to how you like it. So if you come here and right click on here and go to the change theme colors, you'll be able to set the texture of your sidebar and your URL bar and whatever, and you can change the contrast color and you can move these around to see the different type of contrast that you can get from here. And I mean, this works great. And when it comes to the Zen mod, there is a lot of Zen mods and it's also increasing every single day. So the one that I have right now is disable rounded corners. So basically my corners are going to be not rounded. That's pretty much it. And then we also have the disable status bar. And if you've like, I don't know if you noticed this, but you might see some sort of like, I don't know if it's going to show up here, but that just disables that kind of like that tiny box down here that shows the URL, which I don't really like. I find that kind of annoying. And the other thing I have is the fluid URL. This just gives this nice animation when you're loading a page. So for example, if we go here and just reload this page, you'll see that kind of like a slight gradient there. Yeah, that's just a tiny detail there. And then we also have the no highlight on split. So what this means is if we have 2 tabs selected and we decide to split them, when I'm on one of the tabs, it's not going to highlight around that tab that I'm on. And then finally, we have the super pins. So what you see right here are not the default pin tabs. So for the super pins, you can go to the settings and customize it. For example, I can make this wider and it just becomes bigger, and I can customize not just pins but my essentials as well. You can also add borders to only essentials. Floating URL bar is also really great. I mean, it is already built in now into Zen, but if you want to use a mod to add that blurred effect, so Command K just brings this up and then it just blurs the whole background. The URL bar just looks a bit more defined. And you know one thing, in this browser, you can actually just hide all your search results. This makes the URL bar look so minimal. And you can just hide them all and nothing is actually going to show up. That I don't think I was able to do that with Arc though. Correct me if I'm wrong. So those are some of my favorite Zen mods. And there's also something called the secret theme. Do you see that? That's kind of funny, you know? Yeah, so that's just some little fun thing you can do as well with Zen mods. And if you're someone who likes to do custom CSS for your browser, you can do this with Zen browser as well. So if we go to the about config, you'll be able to actually customize your browser here. So for example, if we go to toolkit.legacy, and I have to turn this on in order to enable my custom CSS, which I already have. And if you're wondering how to add a custom CSS to your browser, just create a custom folder in this profile. Just first find out where your browser is located and pretty much go into that profile and then add a custom CSS inside a custom folder. You can go and search around how to do this. It's not that difficult. So for example, if I just enable this really quickly and I quit my browser and restart it, now I do have some custom CSS here. Yeah, so what I have in the CSS is that the extension tabs are actually hidden. So if I hover my mouse over my extension, only then they're going to be showing up. And then we also have the link in the URL bar centered. I'm not going to go into the details of the CSS and the changes that I've made, but this is the CSS that I use as the reference. So you can go to the Bubble Clean GitHub repository and check out their CSS and see what you can change to make it to your own preference. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Zen browser is actually taking over, and I really just hope this browser gets better as we go on. Try Zen browser out if you haven't already. If you're still using Arc, I don't know what you're doing, but you're wasting a lot of power and RAM on your system. If you know you use a lot of tabs, you open them, and you're like a power user, it will eat up your battery. So please just don't do that. All right, I'm out.